recording. We are live. Welcome to the Bradbury Challenge, a podcast where three writers attempt to write one short story each week. My name is Maya, and I'm here with both Gerald and Chrissy. We missed you last week, Chrissy.
Yay!
How are you doing today, Gerald?
I'm sort of doing all right. I've got a sick wife, and I've not done any nano today. So, yeah. Apart from that, it's fine.
You're excused for that. You know, I mean, a sick wife kind of takes precedence. You got to bring lots of soup. And
really? Yeah. Oh yeah.
We want to keep you married. You know, we like her. I do.
Very good.
And Chrissy, I understand that you were up until the crack of dawn writing. What were you writing?
I was writing my novel. I finally found some more voice to it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it took me a while. I got caught up in all of the news going on and had to get those thoughts out of my head first. So I started writing a bunch of that down to just clear my head because my head was so clogged with bull.
What news was that? Happened.
Let's not talk about the Trump slump. Let's just keep moving.
Well, I mean, let's talk about journaling, and journaling is good for getting thoughts out of your head. I mean, when I was going through all my problems with my ex and stuff, that was also what I did was I journaled a lot to get those thoughts out of my head. So journaling is a fantastic way of clearing your mind and getting you back on track.
I completely agree.
And so I did a lot of that, and that helped. And so I got back to my novel finally, and I ended up with I'm only at 20,000 words right now for my NaNoWriMo, which is bull, but
you're only a little behind. 10K Tuesday, and you're caught right up.
Yeah.
So what? You're not going to do 10K Tuesday?
I am going to have to because it'll be a Wednesday because I have Wednesday and Thursday off, but yeah, I'm going to have to do something like that.
It's so much easier on that 10K Tuesday because then everybody's doing it at the same time and you don't feel so alone.
Oh.
I only did it one time. Oh my goodness. It killed me.
Yeah, well, unfortunately when I'm at work, you fit those words in between calls. And so I get some writing done, but I don't get a lot.
Yeah, but all those little amounts count. All those little amounts count. Exactly. And I'm sure once you're more in the practice of it, you're going to find that in between calls, you're getting in more and more words, and the words are of higher quality just because you're more used to jumping in and out of your story like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the other trick I used because I got lost in the story. It didn't feel right. Something was wrong with it. And so I started from the beginning just writing out like a synopsis of everything that was happening in each chapter, because I already had a synopsis that I had made from before, but now that it's like half written, I needed to redo the synopsis so that I could lay out every piece and see how it actually worked together. And that showed me there was a whole bunch of stuff missing from it. And that made it so much easier to start writing again.
I think it's interesting that you did that. I know I've heard from people when they're revising novels, even if they wrote from an outline, they'll go back and outline what's actually on the page. Well, and so they'll create like a post-written outline, which I think is really fascinating.
It changes as you're writing it, and you'll put in things that you didn't know were there when you first started outlining it. And so if you don't keep track of those things, and I also have a changing character sheet too that I constantly am updating with different characters and what they look like and stuff like that, because my world is totally fantasy and everything is just all over the place. I don't have the people based on actual people. I just have them based on pictures in my head.
Yeah.
So
that's good
to do that, isn't it? Yeah.
Gerald, do you use journaling?
No.
You don't journal?
No.
I do.
I'd like to, and I have started like a dozen times or more. I think, and quite envious of these people who have got journals going back decades, and and I just think, oh, I wish but I lose concentration too easily, and I do it for a little while and then just go blip.
I'm in the same place as you. Like when I was a child, my mom gave me a journal, and I was so excited to have my own journal. Like, it was such a big deal for me, and I wrote all my innermost secrets, and then my mom got my journal and corrected all my spelling.
What?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I stopped journaling. I stopped journaling. It gave me this inbred fear of having somebody go through my journal.
Yeah.
And so I started journaling in high school. I really just couldn't keep it up. I would do like maybe 50 pages and then I would stop, and then 50 pages and stop. And so my journals would have like poems and stuff in them, but I really couldn't journal. And then when I stopped journaling, I would just burn all my journals. It's like a paranoia about people getting in my journals. And now I'm trying to journal, but I can't do it every day. And I find that I still have that internal fight of telling myself, it's okay to journal. This is your journal. Mom's not going to go through your journal and correct your spelling and know that you have a crush on this boy in class. And like, come on now. But it's weird because it was like a childhood experience, and it's totally affected me to this day. And like you, Gerald, I read like Virginia Woolf. I'm like, wow, I wish I had like tons and tons of journals. All these great authors have all these journals, and I'm just like, I wish I had those, because I look back on my younger self, and it would be really interesting to go back and see my thoughts and hear that younger version of me, that voice that was there. And I don't have any of that. So I'm trying to do morning pages, but I can't sustain every morning. I do them a couple times a week. The one thing I do, though, that's really helped me with my writing is periodically, if I'm in public or at a cafe or if I'm walking or whatever, I keep my journal on me at all times. And periodically, I will stop, open up my journal, and describe whatever I'm seeing, feeling, tasting, whatever. And what it's done is it's made it so that when I'm writing, you always hear like, use all of the senses. It's almost automatic now because I've practiced that. And so that's really how I use my journals. But I'm totally jealous of people that journal.
Yeah, we over here we have a sort of a writer, sort of comedy writer, and actor called Alan Bennett. You may not have heard of him, but he's just recently published his latest diaries. And then I heard on the radio that he was reading from his book, The Diaries of, and it was fascinating. And just such and such a date, we went to so and so, like the theatre, and we saw this, and the news was this. So it's just really sort of insightful things that he noticed and he was thinking about at the time. And I loved that, and I thought, oh, I wish I could, have the stamina to keep a journal.
Yeah.
Because
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I do it for a few days, and then you miss a day, and then the next day you think, oh, I'll do yesterday's and today's, and then you miss 2 days. No, it doesn't work at all.
It does not work that way. And I definitely want to get to the point where I can journal every day, because once I leave the country, I'm going to be having all these new experiences. I want them on paper. I would love to have that to pass down to my grandchildren or to publish someday as a memoir of, writer traveling or whatever. And I can't do any of that if I'm not actually writing crap down.
Burning it would make that impossible for you to publish.
Yes.
Yeah, and I actually wrote some really interesting poetry when I was younger, and it's all torched. I don't have any of it. And that's sad.
Yeah.
Bad.
I use my blog somewhat as a writer's journal, like, because I'll talk on there about how writing is going, or what's causing me to have troubles, or what I'm using to help me get through a slump or whatever. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, my writing this week, I finished my revision of my story that's going to Carve. Carve extended their deadline, so I'm going through it one more time to make sure I don't have any typos, but the story is done.
Very good.
And so that was just, it felt so good, especially because the week's been so hard. When I went to writers group, one of my favorite writers in writers group, her writing was just off. Like everybody's writing was off because the week was so stressful, and it's amazing how stress can affect your writing. Like her rough drafts are like my clean drafts. Like seriously, they're that good, they're that clean. And all of a sudden she's got typos and shit. I was like, oh baby, oh hun, I know, it's okay. I'm gonna hug. But one of the things that came up is one of the ladies in our group is an older lesbian that came up during the 60s, like back in the day when women were going on these like encounter weekends, and then they'd leave their husband and take their daughters and leave their sons, like back then. And we were talking about this and about the importance of her writing that history down for the younger generations. And I was already having thoughts of how art is so important to every culture, every revolution, every political movement, every major change. There's always been artists involved. And it just really brought to mind the importance and the responsibility of artists. And I don't know, that's been on my mind a lot lately. And I think it may end up changing my writing somewhat. You know, I know that I've been reading a lot more really complicated literature, and a lot of it has really important messages underneath. And it kind of cemented that idea that that's the type of writing that I want to do. It's the type of writing I prize. But this whole last couple of weeks just really brought that to a head of just how special that is. You know, we're kind of in a privileged place to be able to create art that really can change people's minds and ideas and help people grow and, you know, all that.
Yeah, and I think that's the duty of the writer, isn't it? To not only a fiction writer, not only to tell an enjoyable story, but also to get the reader to think and to analyze how they view things, and maybe to, you know, show different aspects of life.
It definitely is for me. I know that's what I look at in literature. You know, it's something I've been struggling with a little bit lately. Is I've been doing so much analysis of what I've been reading that now I've lost the ability to just read a story. You know, just to read, like, you know, simple fun fiction that really doesn't have any meaning to it. It's just, you know, fun to help you like get away from your everyday life. Like I read that now and I no longer find enjoyment in it. And so that's kind of the downside. But there's just so much that can be done with art. Art just seems so special.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think I like to read some sort of trashy stuff from time to time. Just simple, you know. I've got quite a very basic, cozy mystery that I'm reading when I need a break from other stuff, and it's just nice and simple, and there's no depth to it. It's just this happens, that happens, that happens, and that's great. That's what, you know, that's why I bought it, and that's what I enjoy from it.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that. I picked up the audiobook of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children.
Yeah, I love that story.
I'm really trying to love that story. I loved the beginning, the first few chapters. I was excited. The writing was amazing. It was going like so many interesting places, and then it just lost it for me.
Second book, and the second book is a lot slower than the first one. What fascinated me about the first one was I was actually reading the physical book and all of the photos and how the photos fit into everything.
Yeah, the audiobook version actually has a PDF file with all the photos, which is really cool.
Without I mean, you can still read it or listen to it without the photos.
Not the same without the photos.
Not the same.
But even so, like I found myself after about chapter 3, I think 3 or 4, I noticed that I was getting frustrated and annoyed with it, and I realized I'm no longer enjoying that type of writing, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah. I mean, it does pick up a little bit after a few chapters, but I can see why it would be frustrating at the beginning, because
I actually liked the beginning. I liked the first 4 chapters.
Yeah.
My problem wasn't the speed. It started off as very interesting mystery with like really strong children's literary voice. And I love children's literary fiction. It's something that has kind of gone out of style. But a lot of the books my mom read as a kid, like if you handed them to a lot of kids nowadays, they wouldn't be able to get through it. Like it was kind of complex. It was well written, like really, really well written.
Right.
And the first several chapters of the book felt like that. It felt like children's literary fiction. It was just so well written. The descriptions were so vivid, and there was no like pulling back of the language. It was just amazingly well written. And then all of a sudden it turned into like a normal YA book on me. I'm like, what happened?
I had a deadline. That's what happens.
Yeah, I guess I can see that.
I was so annoyed. Like the language wasn't as interesting. The plot just got really simple, and I was just like, oh man, I was all excited.
Yeah, I guess it does become a bit of a maybe an adventure book.
Yeah, I was very disappointed.
Is this one of those cases where somebody's worked on something to send it off to agents and publishers, and then they get the contract and the deal, and they say, okay, give us your finished book, and they go, oh my god, I have to finish it. I have to finish it.
I don't know, because he already had an editor, but it's interesting you said that, because a lot of books, the first few chapters are the strongest part of the book, not because they rush the rest of the book, but because everybody spends so much time revising those first few chapters when they're writing the story, getting the idea, everything, and then they like get on a roll and they just write the rest of the book, and then you get ready to send it out to creative agents. And what are you sending? First 3 chapters. So you're just editing and revising and making it shiny, and you're not necessarily doing that for the rest of the book.
Yeah. I mean, even as a self-publisher, I don't send it out to agents, so I'm not worried about the first 3 chapters. However,
but you still have to have them amazing so people keep reading, especially if you're on Kindle Unlimited.
But I'm not. I want the whole thing to shine, though, because I need the follow through. I need you to keep reading, and when you get to the end, I need you to be interested enough to start reading the next book. So I want it consistent. But you write the first 3 chapters. Usually, for me at least, the first few chapters are the easiest ones to write because the idea is fresh in my head, the characters are fresh, everything is just right there in my brain. And so I tear through those first couple of chapters, and then I have to keep going back to those first few chapters because I'm rereading them so that I keep the fill of the story. I keep the what's going on straight in my head. And so I will pick out those little things that make it wrong, the words that don't fit, or the grammar that isn't quite polished enough, and those get the most polished because I spend more time with them than I do the rest of the book, just because I have to keep going back to it to remind myself what I'm writing.
That's really interesting.
But yeah.
So Gerald, what did you work on this week?
I mainly worked on NaNoWriMo because I was a little bit behind. I'm still a little bit. I'm about a day behind, which is not.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's
better
fine.
than a week like me.
Just a couple extra 100 words a day.
I'd hate to be a week behind. That would be awful. No,
I've done it. It is not fun. It is not fun.
It is not fun.
I tweeted out last night that I think this is the first year in 5 years that I'm actually might lose.
Oh,
no, you'll catch up because you'll do a 10K Tuesday.
10K Tuesday.
You'll just get in it. It might be on a Sunday. It might be on a Saturday. You know what I did? The 1 year I got super far behind. I think I didn't write for like a week and a half. Like it was a thing. It was a problem. So like, that's a lot of words to catch up. What I ended up doing was I did word sprints on Twitter. I led word sprints because if I'm the leader, I have to write, right?
Right.
And I did this thing where every hour on the hour I would do a 20-minute word sprint for 24 hours.
Oh, geez.
It caught me up. Caught me up. Like I did, I think 12,000 words or something in one day. But I mean, I was
writing after that.
Day. Yeah.
I was like the next day you didn't want to write at all, right?
I fully did not want to write anything the next day, but I made myself do it because by then I was so close to finishing
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When you're really behind and then you get really caught up and then you're that close to finishing, you're going to make yourself do it.
Right.
But that's how I got caught up, and it worked, and it was a really interesting experiment in writing every hour on the hour. And so what would happen is I would write for 20 minutes and then I would take a nap, and then I'd set my alarm, and then I'd wake up, do another 20-minute word sprint, and then maybe the next 20 minutes I would outline or think about or brainstorm the next section that I was going to be writing. And I just did that for 24 hours. It was kind of crazy. But I was able to get in naps. I was able to eat. I was able to brainstorm. I mean, it worked.
Hey, there you go. That's all it takes, right?
Yeah.
Our local group, we tend to, if I'm leading the sprints, I tend to do 20-minute word sprints, but we do 20 minutes in half an hour. So you got 10 minutes for a comfort break, make drink or something, come back and you go again. But we do that for basically either a morning or an afternoon. And that's word sprints are brilliant for just churning out words.
I think most people that do word sprints end up doing 20 minutes with 10-minute breaks. I mean, Pomodoros are pretty well known. The only reason why I did it the way I did it was because I had so many words to catch up that I wanted to do it a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And I knew that I would need sleep time and eat time and bathroom time. And so I figured I can live my life in 40-minute blocks.
There's something kind of interesting though, because I'd kind of, like you do, you come to a stage in your nano and you think, where's this going? And I sort of looked at it. I wrote something else, which is erotica. And
really? Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
I don't know what to do.
She wants to read that now.
I want to read Gerald erotica. Like, it's either going to be like totally pervy, like part of Gerald's brain that we just don't imagine exists, or it's going to be like this sweet couple in an RV, like getting it on at the beach or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like a cup of tea, madam. Yeah, I don't know. It's just something that came into my head, and I thought.
Are we talking Victorian erotica, where it's all straight laced and?
No, Gerald. There's more to Gerald than meets the eye. I have a feeling that's gonna be. I have a feeling it's interesting.
Or you could go the complete other way, and we go 50 Shades of Gerald.
No, 50 Shades of Gerald. I so want to write that now. Actually.
Oh my God, that's great.
That's kind of funny because I don't know if you saw it on Facebook. Ooh, crikey, about a month ago, I did Gerald's Rules of Cooking. Like if
it was awesome.
It says one.
I've been avoiding social media for the last week, so.
But it sort of, it got a lot of likes and everybody thought it was funny and it just sort of came out. So, and I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, well, why don't you just do Gerald's Rules of Life in that same sort of vein? But the title, 50 Shades of Gerald, that is.
It is pretty awesome, actually.
He's writing it down.
I am so writing it down. 50 Shades of Gerald. Oh, God. I dread to think. I really do dread to think, but it's the time.
Man. I can't wait to tell Anais that you're writing erotica. Guess what I found out on the Bradbury challenge? Really?
But don't tell anyone, right? Just keep it between us. It's
and all
of our listeners.
Yeah.
And the entire YouTube. I need to change the title. Bradbury challenge. Gerald does erotica. That way we'll get more views on this video.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh goodness. We all need to write outside our wheelhouse every now and then. I mean, we don't expect Gerald to write, hardcore BDSM erotica, but everyone's got to try something new every once in a while.
I know I've tried a few times and I just can't seem to get the words out when I.
That's what she said.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Maya.
I have the humor of a 14-year-old boy. I'm sorry. It's all downhill from here. It really is all downhill from here. There's just no way to recover this podcast. I've written it on occasion. I actually write pretty good erotica, but I just don't have any interest in writing it. I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
There's a lot of it around, isn't there?
Yeah, they're breathing heavy. Tab A, slot B. People are in love. People are out of love. Next person.
So-
like, I'm done.
I love romance novels, like the paranormal romance novels,
Hmm.
but I always skip those parts because they just.
Really?
I do. I really do. I skip them because they're not
Most
realistic.
writers do it really badly.
Yeah.
Well, they're not realistic, and it's like there's no plot or anything in there. There might be some dialogue, so I'll read the dialogue, but mostly I'll just skim the actual stuff because it's not necessary to the plot.
Yeah.
But you know what? Okay. Kid, my mom worked graveyard shift. And she had a huge bookcase full of books that I really should not have been reading. She had all of these like Harlequin romance books from like the 70s, like when they were kind of hardcore and really like,
Yeah.
there was some stuff going on. Like, it was porn for moms. And there was like a lot of power exchange, like kinky stuff happening, and sailors and pirates and Indians, and I was all about that mess.
Wow.
And I was Gerald's shaking his head like, I can't believe this. So I was like in 6th, 7th grade, and I got so good at flipping to the good parts. Like there are just certain words that like flag it. So it was like the next 80s version of like speeding up to on a film, and like you watch like the VHS go forward, everyone's going really fast. She's like, oh, that's the good part.
Is that like
I was doing that
watching the old porn, and you have to skip through the part that actually has the plot in order to get to
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like flipping through the book, and I'm like, oh, bosom.
And manhood.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh gosh, that word needs to be just stricken from the planet. Oh, so good. So did you guys want to read anything from your work today?
No.
I'm shaking my head no.
No.
Which of us actually completed a short story?
Nope.
No.
Well, I mean, mine's completed, but I've been
Gerald?
working on it for 3 weeks.
I
You guys are doing nano.
Well,
Last week was fun because I read like a rough draft, like a section of my story that was the rough draft version versus the 8th draft version, and I cannot wait to edit that episode and get it out because I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to do some more of that.
I did get another 1,000 words done on one of my short stories yesterday.
Which one?
It's called Pocket Watch. It's I have this series called Illicit Gains, which is about some cursed items, and it's number 4 or 5 in the series. I can't remember, but I have to put out The Mirror, which is the one I did like early on in the Bradbury challenge.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, one of my older stories, I'm going to revise it next. I think I'm going to go ahead and put it out as number 5 of my children's short story series. And so, and it's not going to take much work. It's pretty good. So I'm probably going to be working on that for the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
I revise slow.
You revise a lot.
Yeah.
I revised this last book a lot less than normal. I only had 8 versions.
Only.
Wow.
I realize I only have
I did 27.
What?
It is only like I used to go into the 20s. When it's ready to go at 8. I'm really proud of that. Thank you very much. I'm proud.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're proud of yourself.
First draft's cleaner then. Must be.
Yeah, my first draft was much cleaner. It wasn't great. I mean, you heard it, but it was significantly cleaner than what I was writing 3 years ago. So even last year, like my rough drafts are much, much cleaner. But I'm noticing that I take longer to write them because I'm doing a lot more thinking about them and brainstorming before I even start writing.
Right.
So there's that. But my rough drafts are much cleaner. I have a lot less change to make. And I think after I'm done revising them, they're better because I'm not trying to rejigger a mess. Like I have something that's of substance to work with.
I think that's the trouble with my NaNoWriMos in the past is that you have 50,000 words of bleh, and you think,
Irish.
what do I do with this? And in the end, it just sort of gets put to one side, and yeah, it comes back in a different form. But generally, I don't rewrite or edit the nanos. They're just there, and they're exploratory.
I've actually published every single one of my NaNoWriMos.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
So
I hate you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I looked
Cheryl
at
hates you too.
Well, I did up until this year, but I looked at it as a jump start on my writing for the year. And so I would get that 50,000 words out. And so a couple years ago, I was doing Mermaid's Curse, which became my trilogy of the witches, about the witches. And so the first year I did it, I wrote 50,000 words, which was a huge jumpstart on the trilogy. And then the second year, I finished the second book because I'd already finished the first book. And so I had another 50,000 word boost for that year. And then after that, I was able to finish the rest of everything.
Wow.
Yeah. The first Nano that I actually completed, I love the story. It's called Remisian Rising, and I love it, but it suffers a lot of first novel problems. I mean, like, my protagonist is a writer. Come on now. You can't get any more cliche than that.
Oh, right.
And it's really bad. There are sections that are beautiful.
Right.
But it's bad. And after I'm done revising past and I start querying it, I've decided that I'm going to go back and outline what I have, figure out what's wrong, and rewrite it from scratch. And I may go back and keep a couple scenes after I've rewritten it if I find out my old version's better than my new version in certain sections. But honestly, I just want to start over, rewrite the whole thing, because I write so much cleaner. I write so much better. Taking the time to try to make that thing good versus taking the time to just rewrite it and have something that's good and make it great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's a much more efficient use of my time.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Totally. Yeah.
So nobody's reading this week. I'm
sorry,
sorry, listeners. It's Nano. They'll forgive us.
Okay.
I think most of the people that are listening to our show are kind of in the same boat. So I think we're cool on this.
I will read something.
Yay!
So I'll read the first bit of my pocket watch story. Because at least the beginning is well done. What is this for? Daniel asked. He picked up the little red box on his plate, turned it over in his hands, smooth, crisp white paper with a red bow. Celebrating our new life together, Craig said, and new opportunities. Daniel put the box down, the little red bow bobbing up and down. You shouldn't have, Daniel said. I don't even know if I got the job yet. I have confidence in you, Craig said, reaching across the table to take Daniel's hand. And even if you don't get the job, there will be other opportunities. I don't love you for your money after all. I know, Daniel said, squeezing back. I'm just worried. Well, don't be, silly. You're amazing, smart, handsome, and anyone would be lucky to have you. I know I am. Daniel gave him a small smile, squeezing his hand again. It wasn't always easy to see himself the way Craig saw him. But he tried. Self-confidence didn't seem to be as inherent in his psychology as it was in Craig's. Good, Craig said. Now open the box. Daniel smiled and picked up the box again. The red bow slipped off easily, crisp, thick paper, giving him only a moment of resistance as he tore it away from the box. Inside, he found an equally well-crafted box with a creamy satin finish and a thin line of black along each edge. In the center, printed in gold letters in fine calligraphy, were 3 letters, G-E-G. What's this? I've never heard of this store. It's a new one up on the peninsula. They deal in exotics and antiques. Yeah, so I'll skip.
How do you feel about it?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried something different. I had noticed that most of my characters were female, and I needed to get away from that. So I started with a man, and then it just kind of fell into their LGBT, that section. So I wanted to write something different, and
Well, good luck.
Yeah.
It's the same the same genre, I guess, the same the same sort of I don't know, cursed item thing. So that part is the same, and it reads the same, it feels the same. It's just they just happen to be
The characters
two
are really different.
men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like writing men. Remisian Rising, I think the strongest part of that book is my male character. My male main character is just a really strong person. Like he seems to come off the page, but everybody else is kind of flat. But I feel like I did a really good job with him.
Right.
Like I know him. And my goal as a writer, I want to be able to write anybody I want.
Exactly.
You know, I think that's important. And sometimes it stretches me, like my current story. It's a stretch. Like I'm struggling with the story that I'm currently working on, the one with the doll. Me and that story are so not getting along right now. But I just keep chipping away at it, a couple hundred words at a time. I just gotta get it done. And it's definitely a stretch for me. So I think it's cool to see you taking a stretch like that.
Oh yeah, and the other one, I mean, the one is about a male thief, and the other one's about a young teenage boy who you know, he's just dealing with his own life problems. And this one is a man who is trying his best to figure out his way in life, while his partner has already gotten his you know, dealing with the problems of inequality between two people, I guess, where one's making it and the other one's not, and you're feeling insignificant, and what happens when you do
that's
that.
a really interesting that's a really interesting thing to write about. I mean, there's a lot of tension just inherent in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I look forward to seeing how the story goes. And on that note, I want to thank you both for being here today, and especially since it is NaNoWriMo and things are crazy and we're all struggling through, well, except me, but I'm still struggling because I got a short story that hates me. So on that note, I want to also thank all of our listeners. If you would like to look at our other shows or learn more about the Bradbury Challenge, please go to www.literaryroadhouse.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was good stuff.